And in Heels is a motivational, inspirational, and educational podcast for women entrepreneurs. Let's learn from each other, laugh with each other, and support each other so we can all succeed together. And just remember, women can do anything, and in heels. And welcome to this episode of And in Heels. We are thrilled to welcome Lauren Windebank today. Lauren is the founder of Roma Black and the co-founder of Tribe, both companies in which I can't wait for her to tell you about today. So a little bit about Lauren before we let her introduce herself. She is a visionary leader, an entrepreneur, and passionate advocate for women in male-dominated industries. So Lauren, welcome. So to get started today, we would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and where you're located.
Firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you both. I'm Lauren. I'm actually based in the UK. So it's slightly chilly here. And I am the founder of Roma Black, which is a global recruitment company. And we specialize mainly within the tech sector and professional services. And then I'm also co-founder of Tribe, which is a network built for women, both working in tech and finance. And it's really to help them to build their confidence. And we also work with companies to really try and promote, retaining more women in these industries and, trying to educate male leaders on how they can be successful allies and sponsors to these women so we can try and get more women into leadership and close that gender gap.
Love that. That is so needed.
Yes.
That is so needed. I was just looking at something the other day. It's a conference happening locally here in Florida. And somebody sent me the invitation and said, "Oh, you should join." And I looked at the guest speaker panel. It was like 45 men and 2 women. And I'm like, how did that happen today? Yes. Like, it is 2024. So we need that so much.
Yeah, definitely. It was a shame because I was in Fort Lauderdale, wasn't I, in November. And I think you guys were away on vacation or something, but I was actually on a panel, then an all-female panel, talking about, how we're all on this journey together, right? And there's so many amazing men that are huge advocates for women. And it's really just trying to work together, to support women so we can retain more women and, really then help them accelerate their careers.
Yes. And the next time you are in the United States, anywhere near us, we are getting together and we are going to meet and we will re-record another episode when you're here present with us because it's going to be a great partnership, into the future. We can't wait to collaborate more, but please tell us a little bit more about your journey and how did you get here today?
Yeah, so firstly, what I probably missed out of my introduction is that I'm a mum of 2. So I have a 4-year-old boy and a 3-year-old little girl. And I essentially fell into recruitment and I was working for a corporate company. And it was all pre-COVID times, so not much flexibility then. And I just got married and I knew that I wanted to have that flexibility because I knew I wanted to start a family. So I decided I've always had, I guess, that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. I've always wanted to do something and build something for myself. So I made the decision to leave my well-paid job where I was, in management and on a very good sort of acceleration path to start, from scratch, a recruitment company. I quite quickly after setting up my business, I left with a colleague as well. So we started together. We'd struggled for some time to fall pregnant, and so I just didn't expect it to, happen. But God's plan and everything, and so we set up, and then I fell pregnant with my son, and so then I was trying to juggle, running a business with a baby, and essentially what happened was my business partner decided that entrepreneurial life wasn't for her, and she decided to leave and go back into a corporate company. That was in the February of 2020, and COVID hit in March.
Oh my gosh.
And at this point, I have a business. I have a son that's due to turn 1 in a month, and I'm pregnant with my little girl that's due in that summer. So in that moment, I, was presented with numerous things going in my head, a lot of opinions from friends and family of what to do. And I had that self-belief that I could make it work. And I was very fortunate. I was presented with an opportunity to take investment into my recruitment business, which I did. I then built a team, and was lucky then that the business essentially enabled me to have that freedom while my children are young, which is still the case today. So I still, I work in the business, but I mainly work on the business, if you like. And after a couple of years of, building that business, building our client base, really getting to work a lot across the US, which is amazing. We really love working with companies, all over Europe and the US. And through that work, what I saw was a lack of women, working in tech and other sort of, male-dominated industries. And I could see a drop-off, so a lot of women were entering organizations, and then when they were getting to that sort of mid to senior level, they were leaving. So I went on a bit of a discovery as to why that is, and that is why I built Tribe with my co-founder Megan, who is a woman in tech.
Wow.
So
okay.
yeah, so bit of a crossroads, roller coaster journey, but I wouldn't change anything. And yeah, it's been a fun ride so far.
Well, timing definitely wasn't on your side, but was. It's like, you just have to believe in fate sometime, and things happen for a reason. And, we find our way through them or around them, or, whatever that challenge may be. But wow, what an interesting journey you've been on so far.
Yeah. So I know that you said that, you were kind of sent on this path almost alone at first, to fend for yourself a little bit. And obviously you came out on the other side, but what continued to motivate you, throughout, formulating your first business, and then secondary finding this need for a women empowerment group? What was your motivation through that?
I think I have a lot of self-belief, and I always feel like life's going to throw, hurdles and, God knows what's into the mix. And I think the thing that kept me going was wanting to achieve what I had set out to achieve, originally. I wholeheartedly believed, in that business, and didn't want to, abandon that. Secondly, my children, right? They're huge, incentives as to why I want to, provide for them. I want to show them that you can both, have a family and you can have a career as well. And then my sister, she also has autism and severe learning disabilities. So she never got the opportunities that, I have been blessed with. So I've always wanted to push myself, to reach my full potential. I think they're my sort of, three main drivers, if you like.
Yeah, that's amazing.
As you've explored this journey with Tribe, right? Like, you're in an industry and you're recruiting, and you're in this now international circle, and then all of a sudden this need comes to your attention. What were those pivotal moments as you were realizing what was happening in the workplace, in the corporate environment, and then the, motivation or inspiration behind Tribe? Like, how did that all come together? Because I know it wasn't as simple as, oh, we need to do it, let's just do it. It's not quite that easy, right? So tell us a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah, so essentially I'd obviously spotted a couple of, patterns and trends through the work we did in my recruitment business. And I had a conversation with Meg, and I actually went to school together, and I knew she was working in tech and had, really climbed that sort of corporate ladder. And so what started off as just a, conversation over coffee to pick her brains, of what it's like and what maybe is missing. And She texts me after saying, I need to be a part of this. Like, you need me. Let's,
Nice.
do this together.
Nice.
And we've really just gone on the journey together, to be honest, to understand what some of the things are that are causing women to drop out of the industry, lack of flexibility. A lot of times it's when people have children, and then it's harder to return to work. And you're surrounded by men, and obviously men and women have very different needs. And we're not just talking about young women with children. We're talking about menopause. There's a lot of different things that can be catalysts for why it's quite difficult to be in a male dominated industry. And so we wanted to create an external network, because when you work for a corporate, you build friendships and you build relationships within that organization. And I'm a huge advocate of, your network is your net worth. You really can make friendships, side hustles, hobbies, all sorts, from really diversifying that network. So that's why we wanted to create Tribe. We created a platform where women from, all walks of life, different countries, all that have a similar interest in the fact that they work in, tech or finance. That's where we've started for now. And bring them together. So, they really feel like they have that support network. And then we throw in, masterclasses and, all sorts of resources to really give women the confidence. That's what we really want to achieve.
Nice. So right now is your focus on educating companies on how to acknowledge or change their cultures or change their policies or change, whatever needs change to accommodate a more balanced, I guess, management? Or do you work more with the women or professionals to say, this is how you can fill those roles, help change culture? Like which perspective do you usually take?
Yeah, so we're almost going two-pronged.
Okay.
So if you're just working with an individual, which we do, when they go back into their organization, if you're not almost trying to do any work there, nothing's really going to change for them. So whilst you might be able to help them to build their confidence, what we're trying to really achieve is like impact through influence. So we want to be able to work with organizations to help them retain, their top female talent.
Right.
And when it comes to working with individuals, it's really about, again, helping them build out their network, helping them learn some of the soft skills like, emotional intelligence, effective communication, self-confidence, and, all that sort of like mindset and self-belief work. Yeah. And then if you couple that with working with organizations as well, we're going to have a greater impact. So,
yeah. So in organizations, especially, I know you've mentioned tech and finance, which consistently have been known as male-dominated markets. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. What else have you found out there? So have you found that there's more beyond that? Is that still your concentrated effort, or what industries do you feel like need the most cultural change, or how can we, empower organizations like Tribe to make a bigger impact?
So I think for us, we want to, have as big impact as possible. But with any company, you have to start somewhere.
Right.
It's good to have a niche to really start to build momentum. And so the reason that we focus there was because of the work I do with my recruitment company, because tech and finance are closely interlinked. We work with a lot of fintechs. And obviously Meg is a woman in tech. So for us, it felt like the obvious place to start. But in answer to your question, there's a lot of male-dominated industries,
Yeah.
Engineering, construction, defense, so I guess we want to start somewhere, and then we want to build it and scale it.
Love that.
Really sort of have that impact that we want to have. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to start small sometimes to then expand out.
Now, I know you said when you go into companies, you help identify, what keeps women from progressing, or why do women leave, or why are women not supported? What are those key things you found when you went in and, and did your collective information?
hmm So confidence is a really key one that comes up a lot. Women tend to not ask. They don't want to ask, how do I get the promotion? What key steps do I need to take? They don't shout about their successes as much as men. And so what we didn't want to create with Tribe was another, women's network that is talking about, why we're so disadvantaged at times, etc. It's about taking action. It's about
Love
building
that.
that confidence, it's about working with men and going on the journey together to really then start to transform and start to close that gender leadership gap. So I think there's a lot of different things that can come up, like I said, in terms of flexibility, whether you have children, whether you're a caregiver for elderly relatives, also like having a lack of confidence to really understand what your progression path is, and asking for support. Also male leaders not understanding how to fully support women in the workplace sometimes. So that's why, sometimes they want to, they just don't necessarily know how to be a successful ally or a sponsor. There are numerous things, unconscious biases that companies just aren't aware of in the way that they promote, in the way that they hire on board. There's many things. But I think the biggest thing that we saw as something to really hone in on is women's own self-belief and confidence, which is why we try and have monthly masterclasses that focus in on soft skills to try and help them develop so that they can take action. Because things don't fall on your lap, do they? You do have to take action, but to arm them with the self-belief that they can achieve, their goals is the initial step.
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting that there there was I don't know if it's a story or an article or how I know this, but it's an example of, and when you talk about self-belief and confidence, and that if a man goes to apply for a job and there are 10 requirements in the job, if he has one or two of them, he'll apply. Women, if we don't have all 10 plus some extra, credibility, we're like, oh, we're not qualified, and we don't even try. And I think it's that, and it's not a 20% difference. It's not a 50, it's a 70 to 80% difference in how we as women evaluate our qualifications versus how men are able to say, oh, I've got 2 or 3 of those. Yes, let's apply. And a woman, we're like, we don't have 9 or 10. We're like, no way. Why do we do that? Understanding why we do that, I think, is a big, and that could be related to so many scenarios. But I think that one we could all relate to, because I've done that. I've looked at a job and said, oh, I don't have all those. And then I definitely don't have this bonus thing they're asking for. Oh, forget it. I'm not qualified. But a man doesn't think that way. And kudos to men for having that kind of confidence and that kind of broad thinking and just self-support and self-belief. So why as women do we do that?
I think it's so individual, if I'm honest. But, a man will focus on, he'll just see the things he can do. Whereas women will look and see the things they can't do. Or, don't have experience in. And that's why I think it needs to be a mindset shift.
I agree.
And I think also because you can't be what you can't see. So because there isn't that representation, of women in leadership, we're definitely making leaps and bounds, but it's still, I can't remember the exact stat, but it is many, many years until that gap would be closed. So I think, it's also about trying to do things now at this middle level sort of management level, so that we can increase the amount of people in leadership. So then when you get new women through the door, they can see someone like them, in that seat, and it almost gives them that inner confidence that they can achieve it. So
Yes.
there's a lot of elements, I think, that come into it. And that's why we try and really focus on the individuals themselves, the soft skills, the personal development side of things. And then when it comes to organizations, what they can do, through different programs, coaching programs, leadership programs,
Yeah.
to actually try and then
Amazing.
retain the women, and support them from an internal perspective as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really interesting thought. Well, I know that again, you do a lot with just even education in your professional life, but what do you do to stay on top of, educating businesses or women? Like you said, you work with individuals or even personally, because again, the tribe was a personal passion. So, what do you do to stay educated, in your personal and professional life?
So in the last year, I've become addicted to self-development. And I love learning, whether that, through podcasts, Audible, like talking and learning from different individuals. And I think because through the work I do with my recruitment business and Tribe, I've built, a global network. And so I've learned a significant amount from talking to others. And for me, I feel like that's aided my growth journey, you know, so much in the last year than anything else I did previously. And once you start to look at, okay, where can I make these small improvements, whether it be, productivity hacks, whether it be balance hacks,
Mhm.
the getting balance, and people talk about work-life balance a lot, don't they? But whenever you're excelling in one area of your life, it's always going to be at detriment to something else. So I don't feel like true balance, looking at the scales, ever exists. But it's trying to put those non-negotiable things in place that allow you to be, for example, a present mum, but then a present leader in your business, or whatever it might be. And I've learned to, and this is the journey I'm actually focusing on this year, to try and prioritize me more, because you can get caught up in it all, especially when like I say, you're a parent. And this isn't just for women, you've got single dads as well. And it's trying to prioritize yourself and your own health and well-being to show up as the best version of you. I feel like when you start to really invest in yourself, all of the other things fall into place, and come to fruition. You're able to achieve them because you're showing up as the best version of yourself.
And what are some of those things you do to invest in yourself? What are some of those things, because I think sometimes people think automatically, oh, it's getting massages or it's all the extras, but sometimes it's basics, right? So, what are the
Yeah,
things that
yeah.
you do to invest in yourself?
So in terms of, health and fitness, I ensure that I keep active. So I do a couple of personal training sessions, a week. I make sure that I get out and I walk the dog, I'd be in amongst the
Right.
fresh air and, just having that time to really think.
Right.
As you can imagine, a 3 and 4 year old, it's chaos all the time in my house. And then from a, not necessarily even just business, but just from a learning education standpoint, it's, trying to consume, I'm not very good at reading physical books. So that's why I invested in Audible. I like
Yes.
to actually, I'm quite a visual learner as well. So I like to put podcasts on my TV.
Oh, I love that.
And
Yeah.
it might be a recruitment one. It might be just a general entrepreneur, one, building healthy habits. I really do consume a lot of different,
Yeah.
content. I am not on any other social media platforms bar LinkedIn. So I try and only consume things that I feel like are pushing me in the right direction,
Good for
what I
you.
want to be.
Yeah.
And just things like family time, friendship, like you say, yes, massages or anything that's self-care.
Yeah.
All of these little things, they don't have to be, massive. And then the biggest, I think, thing that really was a catalyst for me was coaching. So I
Oh,
invested
nice.
in going on a coaching journey myself, and I've had a couple of coaches. That's really been quite transformative. to really understand myself on a deeper level, to show up as, the best leader for my team, the best person for, my family, friends, etc. So yeah, I would really promote anyone that can, it doesn't even have to be, if you don't have the funds to get paid coaching, there's a lot of people that you can get mentors, or anything like that out there. And I feel like that really does just give you that sort of push in the right direction to fuel that self-development journey.
I love that. And that goes back to your network is your net worth. Like it's the people you surround yourself with, and whether that be coaches or peers or, other people. But I believe, finding someone to lean on and lift you up is key because we cannot do it alone. So thank you for acknowledging that. Well, this has been an amazing interview today. And thank you so much for joining us from the UK. I know it's late there, so you're probably tired and you look so fresh and lovely. You don't show that at all. But for our listeners, someone with your wealth of background and experience and all you've been through, what is that one word of wisdom or advice or nugget of information or a little quote that you want to leave them with tonight or today to let them remember, this is what you're about? What would that be?
So I always tell people, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Ooh, I love that.
When I say that, some people are very comfortable in their comfort zone in terms of their work, or, not everyone aspires to be an entrepreneur. So I don't mean that in that sense. It might be that you've got a fitness goal, but in order to achieve it, you always have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, to really want to grow.
Right.
So yeah, that's something that I, constantly tell myself is get comfortable being uncomfortable.
And I think that's the moment we grow, right? Is always when we're uncomfortable. Well, Lauren, you have been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and joining us. And we cannot wait to share your episode with our listeners.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And just remember, women can do anything and in heels.